Previously on the Game On podcast.
I can tell you, I don't know if many people know this, but I can tell you that the day the Crows were formed, and then their first training session, at Footy Park, I drove there and just, went behind a pillar somewhere and just watched them train for 5 minutes. And I'm thinking, now I was pretty cooked, so I don't think they made a right decision.
No, I disagree with you there, Actually, I'll go to bat on that one. There were one thing about the only decent concession the Crows had with their first year, because their concessions overall are the worst by any side by a long way, but they had 52 players. Now, I'll go as far, of course your body wasn't going to get you through the whole year, but I'll say if Michael Aish had been picked, who knows whether that would have been the extra game to get the Crows in the finals.
Sportscast SA presents Game On. Game On. South Australians' destination for everything sports. Local, national, and international sports. AFL football, soccer, basketball, golf, baseball, tennis, cricket, and any other sports played in this wide world. And we're going to have a blast doing it. So sit back, relax, and let's do this thing. Welcome to Game On.
And Malcolm, that was Michael Aish from our previous episode giving his thoughts on why he didn't quite make the Crows list.
Yeah, as I said, I'm still very firm that he should have been, so we will never know.
We won't, and it was great for him to give us his time as well.
Yeah, no. Fantastic as always, Aishi.
Around the grounds.
And to kick us off today, Malcolm, we're going to have a little bit of a look at the AFLW finals, a little bit of the World Cup roundup, and some tennis as well. But to kick us off today, mate, the West End Redbacks.
Look, bitterly disappointing yet again. But my bit is, where's this actual planning? You look at the South Australian side, and we consistently just pick leftovers from the other states. Now, where is... I want to go right back to when we won the Shield under Ian Chappell, 77-78. Hooks and Darling were picked as two young kids then as even earlier.
Yes.
So I'm going back. They were earmarked as players for the future. Let's earmark a couple of kids and go with them. Go with Tom Kelly. Tom Kelly has a ridiculous amount of ability. Play him. Let's go with a couple of young South Australian kids. Now, Drew, too, staggeringly not picked at the start of the year, now comes in and bats 3. Let's get him in the side and bat him 5 or 6. Where the kids were previously groomed, not thrown in the deep end at 3.
Yep.
Okay, he's not a kid, he's 26, but
no,
in cricket terms, that is still. People sort of think, let's remember, Michael Hussey was older than that when he was first picked for Australia. Let's go with a couple of those guys and leave them. And, Grant, okay, he probably bowled to a bit loosely first game. I think he was trying too hard to bowl wicket balls instead of building pressure. Mm-hmm. But he gets dropped and we play Buckingham from Victoria, played a couple of second 11s games, bang, he plays. Now, those guys haven't forced their selection. Cardner comes over, 4-year contract from WA, hadn't forced his selection in district cricket. And we all know the itinerary is hard and all that nowadays. Yep. But let's play some kids and stick with them. Let's see and try and build something for 3 years' time and see if we can get an Australian player out of it.
Would be fantastic. Read a report today from Fox Sport that South Australia is quickly becoming irrelevant within cricket terms.
And it's hard to argue with that.
It's sad.
Look, as one of the rare lunatics who goes to Shield games, I very rarely miss going to a Shield game. It's bloody hard. It's hard work supporting.
Finishing bottom 4 out of the last 5 seasons doesn't help. I mean, confidence breeds confidence, and as you said, there has to be some sort of meaningful change now because you just can't keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And if that means you've got to blood some young ones, then blood them.
look, and there's mixed thoughts on the proposed new bit with the restructure and a first and second division. Does that mean that the state guys are going to have to lead clubs to go to if their club goes down? So there's mixed feelings on that, but the way we're going, we've got to try something. So at least that's trying something. But yeah, I have been really disappointed with the team's pick this year.
Sure. Confidence breeds confidence, and, you've got to show some confidence in some of these young lads. You've also got to show some confidence in some of the more established, but I think you've got to get that mix right. And at the moment, it just seems so far off. It's quite hard to watch.
If we're going to go down, let's go down with a few South Australians in the side.
Absolutely.
Go the Live Golf.
Yeah, Live Golf. We mentioned in last week's episode that we thought there might be an announcement, and sure enough, Pete Malcom comes out again with the goods, and the Grange Golf Club has secured the event for April 2023.
Interesting there with Greg Norman. I wonder how much they fed on the fact that his inaugural championship win was at Grange. Whether that, and I know Mally well enough that he would have done his homework. Having worked under him. So it's another big tick.
I mean,
so far.
You look at the events that we've secured in the last 6 months. We've brought back the Adelaide 500. We have got the Magic Round, or the AFL round here in SA, and now we've got the golf. Things are starting to move, which is great.
Yeah, look, and people on the outside are going to argue spending too much money on sport. Look, but this is going to get money back into the hospitality game where they've had 2 years of COVID, desperately needed hotels full, etc. Some life back into Adelaide.
Absolutely. I know we shouldn't compare ourselves to Melbourne, but you think of Melbourne through the late 80s, early 90s, they secured every event under the sun, and it sort of really helped their economy along, and also obviously attracting more and more sporting events as well.
Oh, look, and you think of the Magic Round with the game potentially in the Barossa, and, how much potential tourism and all that. I think it's huge, and I personally, big ticks, and let's see how it goes.
Looks like tickets at the moment, they have sold out, and they keep sort of adding a little bit more and a little bit more, which is really, really good. I mean, it does put a lot of eyes on SA, and obviously having those top players playing here in a teams event, which is slightly unique as well.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I think it's great.
Mate, we'll move on. AFLW, the Crows have secured another prelim.
Look, they are the one team, the one South Australian team who's consistent.
Yes.
Randall comes back. Controversial admission last week.
Absolutely.
Because there was arguments about a Collingwood girl who there was similar accusations made.
Yep.
So it seemed to be a little bit of a strange one with Chelsea with that. And Chelsea's a very intelligent lady too. She spoke eloquently as always, but certainly made her point that she didn't agree with the decision. And she's been concussed a few times. So, yeah, look, you can't argue with anyone being cautious with concussion, but she passed the test to start with. So it was all quite bewildering.
I thought that's what the test is for,
Yeah.
and if she passed it, then I know they need to keep an eye on it. You're right, exactly right. We'll rewind a little bit, mate. Unley Oval Saturday afternoon in a freak storm that just came through Adelaide. It was crazy.
Ironically, I left home to go to Payneham, and I'm driving obviously very close.
Yep.
Where we are now, basically.
Yes.
And turned the corner into Ashbrook, and a tree had come across Ashbrook. I will say it's the best bit of driving I've ever done in my life. The 3-point turn I had to do to get out, yes, it was about 100 points.
Yes.
But, yeah, I'm thinking this is going to go down real well on the home front if I'm going to have to park my car and leave it and ring the other half to come get me. So I did manage to get out, but, yeah, it was freakish. I was actually terrified driving.
I stuck my head out the back door when I heard it rolling through, and I couldn't see the back fence. And from where I am right now, it's probably only about 7 or 8 metres away, so it's not huge. Fantastic win, obviously, with the delays throughout the game.
Yeah.
Really seemed to get off to a good start and really hammered home that they are still around the mark. But Brisbane this weekend, mate, at Metricon.
We're the underdogs, but look, if obviously Chelsea comes back. There's experience, Hatchard, and that is obviously the key player as well. Let's see how they go.
Can they defy the odds and make another final?
Look, the head says no, the heart says yes.
Yep.
So
I'm with you on that one as well. All right, mate. We're going to take a quick break and we'll have a little bit of a look at some World Cup cricket round off and some tennis after the break, mate.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe.
Now, Pete, NFL footy.
Yeah, NFL footy is obviously quite big over in the States and is becoming bigger and bigger here in Australia. But I sort of took a little bit of a unique view on one of this week's games, which is Seahawks and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played over in Germany, and it sort of got me thinking about the AFL and how they've tried to expand the brand a little bit. Obviously, Port Adelaide going over to China, a couple of games in New Zealand. Are these games still novelty value, or do they have value for promoting the game?
Well, look, I'll go into bat for Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide were making a profit out of going to China in 3 years, where that was, I spoke quite at length to Keith Thomas about it, where they were projecting making real good, serious coin in up to 5 to 10 years out of it. So where people bag Port Adelaide for it, I actually think it was brilliant. It was unique, totally different market, some wealthy businessmen.
Absolutely.
And I think, with what then happened with COVID and all that, they were just very unlucky. I certainly wouldn't write it off for something in the future.
I give Port a big thumbs up on that one as well, tapping into markets that they no one has ever thought of really as far as Aussie rules football goes. Obviously trying to attract sponsorship dollars, which helps clubs tick along, and each club needs as much help as they can get from time to time. And Port were in a bit of a dicey stage there, so thumbs up for them for trying something a bit different.
So 18 teams, soon to be 19. There aren't enough businesses in Australia going that well to be able to sponsor to the extent, and it's a multi-million-dollar industry. It's not a game.
Yep.
It's an industry. So hats off personally.
So we've had games in England, we've had games in New Zealand. Do we try somewhere else in Europe or America?
America's, you'd think that's probably the logical one.
Mm-hmm.
I dare say they'll be looking at their ratings of games overseas and trying to work out which countries to go from there. So I think it's a distinct possibility still.
Be fantastic if we could get something over in America, even if it's a Australian Island game, just to promote that part of the game. Who knows? Very big in the US. There's a lot of leagues that play and a lot of ex-Australians that are running those leagues and actually doing pretty well.
People don't have any idea how much Aussie rules football, not AFL, Aussie rules football is played overseas.
Yes.
It's most countries of the world.
Yep. I spent 2 years over in America, took a footy with me, and it was a novelty for a little bit, and then all of a sudden everyone wanted to have a kick and a catch, which was great.
Yeah, my brother-in-law Edward, he captained a side in England. Steve Arthur Daly, who listens, he's still playing over in England, and it's a big game.
It is. Can't wait to see what the AFL comes up with next. Mate, we move on to World Cup. We sat here last week. We were almost calling it ball by ball at one stage there, and England really got a hold of India in the end.
Yeah, certainly they just dominated that semi, and to get them none down was quite incredible. Then the final, Pakistan didn't make enough, but at least their bowling made it competitive. And yet again, Stokes in a final, whatever he was probably paying to. Maybe we shouldn't be talking about betting at the moment.
No.
But, man of the match, Stokes, final, comes through yet again.
England seemed to be on a bit of another planet in the semi, and then, really did go on with it in the final as well. And that sort of leads us into a little bit of the 50 over comp starting here in Adelaide this week.
Yes, and Glenn Maxwell,
crazy.
Breaks his leg playing chasey in someone's backyard, not drinking. Yeah, righto.
Next question.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We will.
Tennis Fed Cup, mate.
Yeah, the Fed Cup, renamed to the Billie Jean Cup. Most people will know it still as the Fed Cup, but Australia playing in this event, we actually made the final. Little bit of a surprise along the way. We had a very tough semi-final encounter against England. Got over the line there in the doubles. Sam Stosur and I think Storm Sanders really came through clutch and unfortunately just didn't quite get the chocolates in the final, but very, very, very good effort for the girls as well. And that probably leads me into, the state of Australian tennis at the moment seems to be going through a little bit of a renaissance.
Yeah, a little bit of a revival. There's, as we spoke about, Dimino with his win last week,
yes.
And there's a few more players around the mark. It's a slow but sort of revival, and especially probably even more so. We've got to remember we lost Ash Barty, where I think probably that would have continued the impetus more in that. So yeah, it's encouraging foray forward.
Yeah. In the men's game, we've got a lot of players ranked between, say, 20-ish and around about 120. So good mix in there, and the women seem to be sort of in that mix as well. So you're right, slow burn, but we're certainly on the right track. A bit of a side note on that one today, mate. Novak Djokovic has applied for a visa to Australia. It looks like it's going to be granted, or has been granted. So good for the game.
Yeah, I'm still mixed.
50-50 on it as well.
I'm still, personally, I admit I'm still very much in favour of vaccination, but that's another topic.
It is indeed. And obviously, we want the best players here, but we also need to follow the rules as well. Yeah. So it's a little bit of a mixed coin on that one, I suppose.
And let's remember that his fun and games trying to get in last year. Like it wasn't only the fact that he wasn't vaccinated; it was his whole way of doing it.
I think I
thought was pretty silly. Probably is one part of it.
I think a lot of people would have just gone, you know what, if he's not vaccinated, not let in, that's fine. But yeah, the antics behind it, and then obviously almost the international incident that came from it certainly highlighted it a little bit. But look, I'm glad that we've all moved on now, and we'll see what happens in January.
Yep.
All right, mate, we're going to take another quick break. When we come back, 5 good minutes in the clubhouse, and today's special guest, John Wynne from the West Perth Footy Club and also the Norwood Footy Club.
Jonathan Francis Wynne, 2'8", great man.
Has there ever been anything that has lightened up your day? Whether it was someone who complimented you or maybe you got a promotion at work, these all make you feel happiness. But if you're looking for more to lighten up your day, then you should book our mobile coffee service. We are always dedicated to one thing: service. We appeal to all sorts of people, from commuters on their way to work or our regular workplace coffee stops. And best of all, we visit you. Whether it's our top quality and aromatic coffee or our mouth-watering selection of cakes and food, there will always be something for you to enjoy. Servicing Adelaide's metro area. Why not book in a stop today? Find us on Facebook and send us a message. Tour Coffee and Catering. We deliver your daily caffeine fix.
Welcome back to the Game On podcast. 5 good minutes in the clubhouse.
And welcome to Game On's 5 Good Minutes in the Clubhouse. Today, John Wynne from the Norwood Football Club, previously from the West Perth Club as well. WA Hall of Famer, South Australian Hall of Famer, West Perth Premiership player, and of course, coming over here to the mighty Redlegs, Premiership player in 75 as captain and 78 and 82 as an assistant coach, Malcolm.
Yeah, welcome, Winnie. How are you? How are you,
Well,
great
thanks,
man?
Malcolm. All good.
Yes, Jonathan Francis Wynne. Now, Winnie, let's start with Western Australia and a man who's had a huge influence on you, and not only your footy, your life, because I actually want to expand a little bit on this as well. Let's go with Polly Farmer to start with, 2-8.
Yep.
Expand. Yep.
Well, expand. Well, Paul was playing football in 56, 57, and I would have been about 9 or 10 at the time. And he was just a fabulous athlete at the time, legend in West Australian football. And it was God bless Mummy and Daddy and God bless Polly. And he was just held in such high esteem. And when he went to Geelong, half of Perth finished up becoming Geelong supporters. And I guess a lot of people still are today because when he went there. And it was a great experience after playing a couple of years of senior football. He turned out to be our coach. So it's look, a lot of that stuff still goes on today. I think where the guys who are ahead of you, who you admire, and who are your idols as a kid growing up. And there's been a few fortunate kids around that have managed to play with them, and I was one of them. And it's just like his impact on the club, such a man with humility. He's never a self-promoter. I said to him one day, Paul, you never talk about yourself. He said, I leave that up to others. So it was just a very humble, beautiful man.
And John, you've maintained a relationship with Polly right through to the end of Polly's life. And Polly suffered from Alzheimer's. Look, my mum's just passed away from it. My mum had no idea who anyone was for about the last 3 to 5 years, and it was just horrific. But, yeah, share your experiences with that side of things with Polly, mate.
Oh, when I came back to Western Australia after living in Adelaide for some 14 years, I just picked up with all my old teammates and Marl and the kids. It was so when I went to South Australia, the kids were all young. They were all in their 9 and 10, and when I come back, they're all teenagers. They're all growing up, and we just finished up. Both our families got together, go out. It's just a great. He had a great philosophy on life, and a great sense of humour, wonderful sense of humour. I'd get in the car every morning, we'd pick him up, and he'd say, have you said sorry this morning, John? Because that was what John Howard was about. It's just his outlook. He with the Aboriginals, he said they've been here for 20,000 years. You just can't expect them to change in 200. And it was just his way of life, his actual thinking. He thought differently for a fellow that was brought up in an orphanage. The things that he got up to and the way he thought. First time I ever went to the races, I went with him, and he bought 2 programs. He put one in his hip pocket, one in his jacket, and he'd had a couple of bets. And the bookmaker said to him, "How you going today, Paul?" He said, "I'm going no good." Well, I'm standing there listening to this. Hey, give us your program. He gave me his program and he marked it off. Went along a bit further than one of the leading trainers. "How you going, Paul?" "I'm going no good." And he gave him the other program. We went and sat in the stand and he compared the trainer's program with the bookmaker's programs. I said, "Why did you tell him you're going no good when you already had a collect?" He said, "They try harder to find you a winner if they think you're losing." And so where did, he came up with this philosophy where he was self-taught, self-educated in a whole range of things in life. It was a great experience being with him. We're on the Galahs tour in Ireland, and we're on a double-decker bus, and we pulled up the bus stop, and it's got betting. Out we get. We go up to this little betting shop, grabs the form guide, and picks 7 winners. It was just uncanny. He bred horses. He had had a large on stallions and studs, the whole bit where he had all the magazines and the books. It was a great interest for him, and his betting was. He was criticised for it, but what he was a small gambler, in a sense that he'd pick novelties. He would go for the quartets and the trifectas. Yep. And he got some amazing results with his analytical brain. Great analyzer. He was telling us things in the 60s that they still don't do today.
You always said he was well ahead of his time.
He was. Like, don't kick the ball at them. Kick it out in front of them. Let them run onto it. Well, that's kicking the ball to advantage.
Yeah.
You know, throw the ball out in front. Let them run onto it. Well, that is not taught today. All they say is you kick it. They don't say kick it to advantage or handball to advantage. It's just he was, as you said, he was ahead of his time.
And then
I said to him one day there about the handball. I said, why did you come up with the handball? He said, I could win the ball. He said, but if I could give it to somebody who was 5 or 10 yards out and they could advance down the ground, that would be, instead of my kick, it'd be a kick and a half.
Yep.
And he said, then I could get set for when the ball came back, if it came back. You know, so just his whole philosophy. I don't believe the Victoria saw the best of him. He played his best football here, and that's going by a couple of his teammates at the time. That when he went to Melbourne, he had to reinvent himself because of his knee. He did a cartilage in, and in those days you didn't come back from cartilages. And at a function, Bob Davis, the Geelong coach, said he was the first player to come back and recover from a cartilage operation.
Okay.
So there's just a whole range of things that very unique. When we were playing in the Carnival in Adelaide, and it's written up in the advertiser that morning, Farmer versus Nichols. And I said, what'll happen today, Paul? He said, John will hit me, I'll hit him, and then we'll play footy. So it was just, yeah. And he went on to win the Simpson medal in that game. So it was just, a wonderful experience as a kid growing up, idolising this man, and then spending, the later years of his life with him. Yeah, no, it's just great.
Yeah, look, we're pretty emotional on that topic as well, too, eh? Your decision then to come to the parade, thank goodness. Carmel Court, the College of Knowledge, where you were the head prefect. You think of the people who boarded there: Michael Taylor, Phil Carman, the late Jim Till and Glenn Rosser, Greg Turnbull, Neil Craig, Danny Jenkins, Neil Button, Ian Stasnowski. We go on and on. That'd be a fair AFL side, let alone, and that. Nord was sort of ahead of its time in that regard. Wow. There too, and Wally and Jim Balderstone side of things there too, eh?
Yeah, look, I think that set the stage for the future coming out of the 60s into the 70s. And what I mean by the future is that all those guys were also humble, and the humility that exists amongst them. And that's the big thing about Norwood. Wally Miller was never a self-promoter, and all the Norwood presidents, and to this day, they're not self-promoters. They're sharing, caring people concerned about the people behind the scenes, like our trainers and our administration people, our volunteers. The Norwood Football Club is an amazing institution, I believe. And if you look at our three champions, as in our greatest player ever, Gary McIntosh, Michael Taylor and Michael Aish, they've never been self-promoters, and they've promoted this humility, and it's just been what it's done. It's attracted people, not only from the administration, but also our sponsors and people that have been around for years and have never got much praise about it, about being sponsors, and just the silent givers, like the Cradle family.
Yep.
And the Cooper family have been involved for a century. It's an amazing institution, and I was very fortunate to stumble onto it and make that call to go to Norwood. It came about because Damien Nygaard came to West Perth in 60, halfway through 69, and I thought, here's my way out of here, because I wanted to go to Victoria. And at the time, they had a thing called the Coulter Law.
Coulter Law, yeah.
And they kept Sid Jackson and a couple of players out of football in Victoria for 2 years. And I thought, what I'll do is, if I go to South Australia, I can go into the back door to the VFL. So I organised to come over there. Bert Balderstone came over, met with him and Ron Kneebone, and then went over at the end of 69, after the season finished here, and there was a player swap involved. Graham Malloy went from Norwood to Melbourne. Melbourne cleared a guy by the name of Steve Arnott to West Perth, and who was still involved at West Perth today. And Norwood cleared Nygaard to West Perth, and West Perth in turn cleared me to Norwood. And
Norwood might have won that one too, eh?
Well, I don't know about that, but anyway, it was just a great experience to be involved in those early years, particularly at Carmel Court, where it was just that was an amazing experience. That was the club within inside the club, and inside that club developed the team within the team on the ground. I remember Bob Hammond there one day. He threatened Glenn Rosso. If you don't get a kick today, Glenn, you're out of the team. And we've got halfway down the race. And I stopped the boys and I said, fellas, all you Carmel Court guys today, we give the ball to Duck. So at half time we've gone in and Hamo said, you're right, you bastards, you got me. Duck had 25 kicks.
Wow.
It was just, it was just a great, you'd go out of a night, different places around the town, and you'd see one another, and everybody looked after one another. It was just a great feeling. And I think that went right through the club and the environment. And I think a lot of guys have sort of tuned into it. Norwood's a very compassionate. It's not a ruthless club. It's a very, very compassionate. Maybe we could have won more premierships, but I think assess what the guys have gone on to do with their lives after Norwood. I think there's been a lot of successful guys that have come out of that environment, and I just think back how fortunate I've been.
I always love that you see the full picture too, Winnie.
Pardon?
I always love that you see the full picture, and not people just think of exactly as you're saying. A lot of clubs people just judge any club by a number of premierships and don't see the whole picture.
Well, they're all trying to win a premiership. They're all going to do it next year, but you need to lay the foundations, and you need to recruit just as good as people off the ground as you are on the ground. You need to have standards, and I think it's a credit to Jay, the current coach. From what I understand and what I've been told, he's managed to tap into the culture and cultivate the some of the players of past to be involved, which is good for them. Good for the club, and I think that extends the tuition. I think there's a gap between people from the 60s and the 70s of how do you communicate with them today. They're not on Twitter, they're not on Facebook, but I think you can do it on one-to-one where the coach can tap into some of the past players of involvement who've got the right sort of, who understand the culture, who can help tutor the younger fellows coming through to the club. I think the SANFL and the WAFL, it's a stepping stone to the AFL, but there's a lot. I think they take the kids too early, yes. And I'd prefer them. I reckon you got a better chance if you go later in life, not 18 and 19. And I think they cast too much to the wind. They say that they're going to look after these kids, but I don't believe it's better. Like Keith Thomas was a very skillful player. He was drafted by Hawthorn, and he went over there. Hawthorn or Fitzroy? One of the two clubs.
Fitzroy. And
I think his coach at the time was... it was a well-known...
Walls and Parkin. Yeah. Yep.
Parkin.
Yep.
I mean, when Keith came back, his skills, they were off by 50%. And it was all more... They never placed the emphasis on the skills like we did in the environment that we created at Norwood. All the Victorian players, they're all great marks. They were better marks than what we were, but they're kicking, and their skill wasn't as good. I just think that there's been more development of the game out of South Australia because you've had the three leading coaches who were there for 20 and 30 years between Foss Williams, Jack Odie and Neil Curley, and they all had their own different philosophy, and I think when you look at Mark Williams, what Mark Williams has gone on to do with his football career in coaching, and when Mark played, and to where he is now and how he understands the game and the environment that he was out of, I think he's modified a lot of his thinking towards the game, which is great because he's evolved. Which is sometimes you get typecast in an environment and it's hard to break the mould, but I believe he has. Speaking of
skills, mate, your first coach was Robert Odie. Certainly at Norwood, yeah. Norwood. And how was that experience?
Robert was a good football skills coach. Robert went to school, teachers college, and back to school. He never mixed commercially in the world of commerce, and had an understanding of that and the people that were involved in it. He tended to prejudge people, and he prejudged me on occasions, but you can't catch me because I don't drink and I don't smoke, and I never have. So it was an unusual relationship. That's why, in the end, after the end of '73, I made my commitment was to go to Norwood for 2 years or not at all. And after I completed that commitment of 3 years, Paul was coaching Geelong at the time, and I rang Paul and said, "Look, I wouldn't mind coming over." And so I set the deal was set. I was going to go, and then they finished up sacking Robert Odie, and I decided to stay.
And the rest is history in that regard too. Let's go for a bit of fun. How much? And it's funny where you said non-drinker, and I reckon there'd be that many people around who thought at the time they'd be around Wynne and think, "Geez, Wynne smashed," and no, it was just Wynne was just the king, and you just played people on a break. Sam's Disco, 2-8, your involvement there.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to take over the management of that from Ron Tremaine. Ron Tremaine was an entrepreneurial. He was involved in the Festival of Arts, I believe, and he was appointed manager of the Lion Hotel in the early '70s. And he was involved in the building program, and he was busy, so he stepped down from running it. And I was fortunate enough they appointed me to run it, and I ran it on the same basis that I liked places that I like to go in Perth. So all the places in Perth that had played top band 40 commercial music, they drew the crowds, and that's what we put in. We just put in the top commercial bands. 5AD at the time were on top playing commercial music. That's what we played. We had Bob Francis as our DJ, and we ran it to a standard. No swearing, wear a tie, behave yourself, or you get thrown out.
Yes, and we can all remember going up the back stairs through the kitchen at Wynne. That was always good fun.
Yeah, well, we had our crowd controlling engineers were Neil Button, Phil Carman,
Jim
Hugo Colasanti, Michael Aish. We had a fire attendant. We had a fire attendant. That was Neil Craig.
Right, yeah.
So we had all the young guys who were putting themselves through school and who needed the extra buckaroos. So it was, and it was good to have them around and involved. It was the place to be on a Saturday night for the younger kids.
If only we could invent a time machine, mate. I'd love to have gone. Would have been amazing.
Memories. So, so 78, and people go on and try and make out there was so much in the whole Jack Odie thing. It was, as usual, you were just the king of bluff. You'd thought of it before the game. If there was a chance. And really, not much happened.
No, nothing happened. It's like most people can't tell the difference between your arse or your elbow. So it's people just anyway. People read into what they want to believe. It doesn't matter. There was no punches thrown on my behalf. It was just I didn't have to, and it was all just "G'day boys, how are you?" And that was enough to upset a few people. So that's fair enough.
Sandy Roberts the next day on the footy show, and John, I've got to ask you about the incident in the coach's box, and can you remember your reply to it?
Oh yes, it was appropriate at the time.
I still think it's appropriate.
You never miss an opportunity to jump into a box.
Yes, as always, you nailed it. And, then your involvement with fantastic partnership with Barmy, especially in 82.
Neil's a man's man. He's and a gentleman as well. And I can't speak highly enough of him. I caught up with him a couple of weeks ago. He's back to playing weight. It's amazing.
I know.
But I wasn't aware. I wasn't aware that when I played here, he was a 16 or 17-year-old kid playing a few games for Subi, and he actually rucked. He mentioned that he rucked against Polly one day.
His first game, his league debut.
When he's a 16 or 17-year-old kid, and I knew he played for Subi, but I didn't know it was in that particular game. But look, it's great. What happens is, as you're coming through the system, everybody is involved in doing what they're doing, and years later you don't realise just how good was this bloke. How good was he? Like Greg Nicholson. Nico would come to training and he'd go home and we'd have to drag it. It'd be like pulling teeth to get him to go to a function. Anyway, years later, after all the footy's over, we catch up. And you just think, how good is this bloke? And you start to look around and you think, look at our history group, led by Michael Colligan, Roger Woodcock, and Shorey, and the guys who are cultivating.
Yeah, Winton and Graham Adams. Yep.
All that, so many people that are involved behind the scenes, and they're just beautiful quality people. It's like some of the trainers when we have a function, Mel Phillips and his crew. So they're still around, and that's the great part about it.
Couple of practical jokes. I've always loved one in particular. One night in the Redlegs Club, and you've seen Ashley Porter in the corner, and you let the word around to people, and you've slammed, thrown something on the floor, and you've gone, I've had a gutsful, bloody bears, pissing off to Port Adelaide. And he stormed out, walked out the door, and you just walked around the corner, came back in the other room, in the blue room, and there was Ashley Porter, walked out about 5 minutes later, back page of the news on the Monday, Button the bear wants to go to the Port, sure enough, for attraction the next day. But I'll give Ashley Porter his due. He took that pretty well.
Yeah, well, there's a great rapport between some of the blokes. Like over the years we've had, like Roachie. There was him. A lot of the guys from the west were Shieldsy, Alan
Chef,
Shields.
Yep.
So they're all blasts from the past. Most of the people
Mike
that
Howard.
saw us play in the 70s now have all passed on. You don't realise it's 50 years ago.
And it is
45, 50 years ago.
Now, Pete,
We had our day in the sun, so that's fine.
Pete, so there's one day Wynne's gone, right. Can you remember what you called us 228? Can you remember what you called myself, Jeff Wilson, and Peter and Walshy, Bob Walsh?
Yeah, the elves.
And Wynne's gone, I'm going to shout you guys lunch. And there used to be the John Wynne stand, the little bit on the side and that. And over comes Dave Parsons, the head barman at the time, and he's got this silver, plate, and it's all enclosed over the top. And we're thinking, geez.
It's got the cloche on
I'd
it.
love to know what Wynne's shouted us here.
Yeah.
He lifts it up, 3 packets of chicken chips, 3 cans of Coke. And it was vintage 2-8.
You don't want to spoil them.
Not too much, anyway.
Now, back on one serious one, Wally Miller.
Well, there's not much you can't say about him. Just a beautiful man. He's when you look at when you think you're going rough, you've only got to think about Wall, and you go through some of his issues that he's had in his life, and there he is. He's still as sharp as I ring Wall every Thursday, and we just talk shit, and it's just a great rapport, wonderful man. There's nothing the boys wouldn't do for him. I believe he kept the lid on the whole shooting match, and he was just such a great navigator around issues that we had at the club at different times. Everybody kept their cool with him. He kept. It was just an unusual individual. For him to evolve into what he was at the football club for that period of time, and to still be active today in what in his life. It's an amazing story, an amazing individual that I can't speak highly enough of him.
And for people out there who don't really know Wynne and probably hopefully getting to know a little bit more compassion just listening to this side of things, I compared John very much to Ian Chappell as a leader, and that Wynne is also the leader. He always knows everything what's still going on at the parade. John still knows everything. The care and compassion he has for everyone. Someone falls down the crack, one of Wynne's favourite sayings, or there's a player set, whatever. Wynne's even from Perth. He's contacting us, hey, blah, 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 can you go and do that? And unique leadership in Jonathan Francis Wynne. How did it become that you effectively got known, and you're one of the very few people known basically through your number, 328? Was there any particular thing how that first started?
I don't know. It's maybe, well, there's a 28 parrot, and the parrot does. I don't know whether the parrot talks too much, but anyway.
Only you, Wynne.
But anyway,
going back, mate, to your career. You captain Norwood in was it 75?
Captain the premiership side, yep.
Yep, and obviously broke the 25-year premiership drought. I mean, that's fantastic for the club. How did you feel?
Look, it's. Looking back on it now, it was just it was a great experience. It's things you don't forget in life. There were just so many people who were emotionally involved on the day that brought tears to their eyes, and it was just a wonderful effort of all the things that people had put in place. 4 or 5 years before that, how it all managed to come to fruition at the right time, and just having been there, look, it's those things stay with you, and the people do too. And unfortunately, there's a number of them that have moved on in life now. But it was just an emotional time, and I think there's a bond between all those people that. You get together. You don't get together as much as you used to, like as in the reunions and that. In the old days, the reunions would go on till 2 and 3 in the morning, and now they're home by 5 or 6. But we're all getting a bit tired. But it's a lot of. You have to have been there, I think, at the time to appreciate it. And the same as the young lads that have won the premiership this year. That was an amazing effort.
Oh, sensational.
And they are so fortunate. They are so fortunate, those lads, that they're at the right place at the right time. And that will be with them for the rest of their life. And they've got to hand that feeling on to the next generation coming through. And the same as the guys who were around when we won the 3 together. Those guys, you finish your footy, you go off, you have your family and you get involved, but you need to come back. You need to get the right people back to keep the culture going. And that's the important thing, that Norwood's got a great culture, got great successful people that they call back into the fold. And I believe Neville was there this year.
Yes, I was going to add Neville. Yeah, it was actually interesting where Ben Jarvis lining up for a goal in the last quarter. And look, he struggled a little bit at various times kicking for goal. And as he's lining up for goal, it's actually, I'm wrapped he's so far out, because this is going to make him do what Neville had been trying to get him to do for 3 months, was kick through it.
And he
And
nailed
he
it.
absolutely nailed it.
Yep.
And I thought of Neville straight away.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's all part of the culture, part of the history of the Norwood Football Club, and it's just wonderful that it all fell into place at the right time.
One quick one back
You know,
on as far as I'm concerned, the forgotten premiership almost. And because it was a great game, and probably you can comment on it more than anything because of your knowledge of WA footy, was the 77 Art of Cup against East Perth. One of the great games.
Yeah, it was a lead up to 78, and we were laying the because the following year was our centenary year, and the effort that the club was putting into it, recruiting people and building towards the team, was that was where our focus was for the 78. The 78 was an unusual team because half the guys never played the first half of the year.
Yeah, it's true. There were a few come in. Yeah, Phillips Noonan,
So
Adamson.
yep.
Yeah.
So it was, but no, look, you never write Norwood off. They always come back. Great people. Michael Taylor was unfortunate that he played in the era of Barry Robin and Russell Ebert, because they had a mortgage on the medals every year. But Kingo was up there. He was right up there with all that sort of stuff.
Oh, Kingo's game and Kingo in 80, it was farcical that he didn't win the medal in 80. And to Russell's credit, he made point one night we're doing a fundraiser with him, and he said, "Hey, biggest pants down job I ever got in my career was the 80 grand final by Kingo."
Yeah, Russell was a beautiful man. Loved Russell. No, we got on pretty well. Yeah, great things with Russ.
Who was your toughest opponent during those halcyon years?
I was fortunate enough. I didn't have to play on Barry Robin, and I was fortunate enough I never had to play on Russell. So they were just the standout players in that era. Trying to compare people in different situations and different eras and different
It's hard.
It's difficult, but all you do is you have your favourites, and I think those two boys were just ornaments to the game, wonderful people, and they kept doing stuff and contributing to the community well after they had their career was over. It's they're the sort of people that I respect and got a lot of time for.
Now, it's a state game. Is it correct? Is it footy folklore or correct? Was a state game you sitting on the pine and took extension cords with you for electric blankets? You and Malcolm Blythe on the bench. Is that correct?
No. What happened there was that's when they were promoting that Sustagen, and Blythe and myself stood back. We stayed back at half time and gutsed all the Sustagen and the pineapple. I reckon we had a pineapple each and about 2 tins of that Sustagen. And we went out and sat on the bench with our guts full. And they've come down and Curly said, "Winnie, you're on." I said, no, you go on. Anyway, Blighty finished up going on, and I couldn't but not go on later on. But, yeah.
Okay.
No, the heater. No, I had a heater at Football Park.
Yes.
Because they had a power point there, and it was, they used to call it Arctic Park, and in the little dugout there. So, yeah, I had a heater.
Heater, right.
Little
So
heater
I was close.
coat.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, your life membership to Norwood in 1979, but obviously in 2001 you're named in the team of the century and inducted into the Hall of Fame as well.
I'm very, very fortunate. Someone out there loves me, but I don't see it as all that. But it's yeah. Look, it's I don't go there. All the footy stuff's in a box in the garage. I don't dwell on the past.
Hey, but what are you? Let's go back to now, Winnie. That's more your cup of tea. Hey, what are you though? West Perth going top as well.
Yeah, we were very fortunate there. We had a function with all that used to be known as the Cardinals.
Yes.
And we had a function for all the past players, all the old Cardinals, the guys who played at Leaderville. And we had a function there. And I went as a Cardinal. I dressed up at the Cardinals outfit, the hat, the whole lot. And I had the big car. I've never had so many people kiss my ring in one day.
I actually remember you giving me a tour of Leaderville when I was in Perth, when you were coaching West Perth, and you gave us a tour of the ground.
Yeah, there's a lot of. Well, I was there as a kid when West Perth won a grand final in 1960. 60. I used to go down there every night, watch them train, catch the bus down. So as a kid growing up, then finish up playing for them, which is very, very fortunate.
Look, Wynne, greatly appreciate your time. You're a legend of the Nord Football Club. You're a legend of football more overall. We've obviously got to wait and see now. Talking about the Alzheimer's and Polly with concussion with studies, which Keith Thomas is actually involved working in that at the moment as well. With concussion, it's probably the most serious issue facing sport in general. We've just got to wait and see with what knowledge comes out there more and more. Wynne, but greatly appreciate your time. Obviously love your time with Nord Footy Club, and yep, you were my first footy hero. Greatly appreciated. 2-8.
All right, Malcolm. Thanks for that. Thanks, boys.
Thank you, mate. Thank you for giving us some insight today. That was absolutely fantastic.
All right, gents.
Thanks,
Cheers.
2-8.
Mate, we've just had John Wynne on, and what a fantastic interview, all the way from Perth, and thank him for giving us his time tonight.
Oh, he's a quality man, John, and look, he really gets it. His care and compassion, and that, you obviously hadn't spoken to him before, Pete.
Yes.
You probably learnt a fair bit there about
Absolutely.
the man. And, yeah, look, it's just everything. And there's never anything too much out of the way. Look, I contacted John to let him know about Ben Jeffries playing his 100th game as the number 28. Mm-hmm. And, he contacted Ben. I'll admit it was probably about 12:15 that night. We'd played West Adelaide at Richmond. Ben just couldn't believe that John Wynne had contacted him, and the thank you, capital letters message through. The other half probably wasn't happy with the noise going on at about 12:30.
Yep.
But these things happen.
They do. My biggest takeaway was that he was very passionate about the current generation passing on that success and that club spirit to the next generation to help them be successful as well. As
I've said I don't think there's not that many people who truly get it. That's my term. And when he does, he sees the whole picture probably as good as anyone. Yep. And as I said, leadership-wise, for mine, he's up there with Ian Chappell.
Absolutely. And he mentioned, obviously, Aishi, Macca, Kingo. I think he certainly is in that Mount Rushmore group that we keep talking about. Fantastic.
Great man.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Happy days.
And mate, to kick off our happy days today, we've got Will Hamill from the Crows, 22 years of age, recruited from the Dandenong Stingrays under-18 comp, obviously playing at the Crows at the moment. Picked 30 in the 2018 draft.
And he's been good, but he's probably shown a bit of promise. Can he be one of those to take the next step and really go from a reasonable player to a really good key player?
I think this year's probably going to be that step that he will take. He certainly showed plenty last year that you'd get a little bit excited about as Crows fans.
Yeah, no, I think he's got a lot of potential.
Mate, this week in 1990, Yugoslavian tennis star Monica Seles beats Gabriela Sabatini 6-4, 5-7, 3-6, 6-4, 6-2 to win her first of 3 straight WA championships. But first time that a 5-set final in the women's has been played since 1901.
There certainly wouldn't have been too many of them either. Overall, I'll be honest, I didn't know that, and who knows what would have been the result in 3 sets.
Correct. Obviously, the talk about equal pay for equal play, that was why it was probably a little bit of a subject that jumped out at me a little bit.
Yes, good pick up.
Great to see the women play 5 sets there, and obviously back in 1990 as well. I mean, athletes are a lot better attuned these days, but you're right. Amazing what might have happened in 3 sets.
Yeah, and look, I am. If you're going to say equal pay, surely it's got to be for the same conditions.
Mate, moving on, this week in 2012, Lewis Hamilton wins the 2012 US Formula One Grand Prix.
He's been a key, one of the leading drivers for a fair while now.
He's been around the mark for sure. And to finish off, mate, happy birthday to David Ortiz. Now, this one's a little bit of a personal one for me.
Nothing wrong with that, mate.
I'm a massive Red Sox fan for the baseball. Didn't have a great year this year, but David Ortiz, an all-time legend of the Boston Red Sox. 10 times All-Star.
That's a fair... Yeah, that's quite incredible, isn't it?
It is. World Series in 2004, 2007 and 2013. MVP in 2013. Obviously born in the Dominican Republic. What a great get for the Red Sox organisation, and such a great servant.
10 times All-Star. You think of that, someone, I think Patrick Danshire, I'm trying to think how many All-Australian selections he's got.
Selwood's up there as well. Yep. Yep.
That's the key. It's longevity.
Yep. Superstar
player for so long.
Yep. Certainly put the team on his back a few times there, and boy, oh boy, could he hit the ball. And Fenway's not a small park in comparison to some parks, and yet he'd still clear the fence, especially on the monster wall there. Huge, huge effort. So happy birthday to David Ortiz.
Well played.
Liking this podcast? Please like, rate, and subscribe. Extra time. Big finish.
Right, mate, to kick off today's Extra Time Big Finish, we held off on this one. We could have probably gone to town on it a little bit earlier, but the sports betting here in Australia for the AFL umpire.
I think we're still learning a little bit more each day or so, and probably there's a few things still up in the air on how it's transpired, how he got caught, it's why. It is quite bizarre, and we can't say it couldn't happen again because it's happened this time.
Correct. Interesting, obviously certain umpires will know certain votes because, they're obviously umpiring that particular game. But you'd have to say there'd have to be some talk around the locker room every now and then about who's had a brilliant game. But sometimes they don't match up. When we were at Brownlow night, guys had 39 possessions and probably done pretty well, and yet he only gets 1 vote.
And I think we did, as soon as he got named, Pell got named, and you did look at the games and... Oh, hang on, that one.
Yep.
Powell Pepper only got 14 touches, 3 votes. It's left a dirty taste.
Definitely. Should the umpires have that taken out of their hands? I mean, they're going from 3 umpires this year to 4 umpires, which I think personally is, for me, a mistake. But then you've got 4 certain umpires making calls on Brownlow votes.
Oh, look, as an umpire, I've always said it's absolutely ridiculous. There's games you umpire and you came off the ground, and yet there may have been an obvious 3 votes, and then 2 votes and 1 vote, and it would generally actually come down to the last vote.
Yep.
It's, bloody hell, no idea here.
Yep.
And especially in a real close game. If a game 10 goals up, you chat and go, geez, 52's been good. Hey, he's kicked 4. And you were sort of on top of it a bit. But a close game...
Yep.
Bugger that. There were more important things to worry about.
Makes it hard for sure.
Yeah. So no, I don't know who else to do it. Whether you go to a 200 club, which they do with the Bob Shearman thing here with the 200 game players, but I'm not real sure either.
It would be an interesting watch for sure.
Lawn Bowls, mate.
Mate, we sat here last week. We were almost, again, calling a play-by-play. We talked a couple of weeks ago about do something, and I'll tell you now, the Adelaide Pioneers, they almost pulled off one of the great wins. We spoke on Thursday night. They needed to win probably one game out of their three, I think it was, on Friday. They secured two of them, but secured fourth spot. Probably knocked off one of the fancied teams in the first round of the finals, and then played an all-star team in the second round of the finals and got both of them. And just watching it, they were so unlucky in some respects to almost pull off the unthinkable from fourth spot.
Now, question to you here, Pete, because you're obviously a lot more knowledgeable with the Lawn Bowls and that sort of thing. If we had got up, what does that mean for Bowls back here?
Look, Adelaide have finished in 5 losing grand finals over the course of the Lawn Bowls Premier League. They've had APL for a couple of years, and then they've had BPL, which is basically the same event. They just rebranded it. I think for the state here, it would have been something that they could have really promoted and pushed on. I mean, we know the guys from a Lawn Bowls point of view. Yep. We know Scotty Tholburn. We know Wayne Rudiker. Caitlin Inch is a New Zealand representative who we've secured through a trade because one of the other girls went back to her home state of Tasmania, which had a team entered in a couple of years ago, or a couple of BPLs ago. Yep. The Bowls people know those guys, but it really would have given a little bit more of a push along to that. The people within the Bowls community absolutely would have been all over it, and away we go, because we've just been a bit unlucky in a few finals, unfortunately.
Yeah, yep.
So we almost
got there.
We almost did something, and we could have hung a hat on that one for sure. Mate, we move on to the soccer, the round ball game. Adelaide United.
Yeah. 3-0 win last week against the traditional rivals in Melbourne Victory. Now there's the pause with the World Cup. You know, Craig Goodwin's in the side, made the squad. Mm-hmm. You know, whether we can win a game in the World Cup and see how we go. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in that. You know, Adelaide United have set themselves up. They've had a good start to the year.
They have. They played the 3 games away from home at the start of the season because of the renovations that were done at Highmarsh Stadium. Broke, really, in the scheme of things, probably broke even. Probably could have got a result on one of them, but didn't quite get there. But their last couple of games have been probably scintillating, really. Yeah,
I've definitely got to get along to Highmarsh and that. There's been only positive comments around the traps on the redevelopment. I think the crowd on memory was 13,176, but it was just over 13,000. Mm-hmm. So, you know, good sized crowd.
Even though we had the storm on the Saturday, actually Friday night was a cracking night. Yeah. So it was one of those catch-22s as to how many people are going to attend, and it seems like they got a pretty much a full crowd.
Yeah, I actually went along to the Strikers that night, and they actually had a record crowd there. There were 902 was their record crowd of a Strikers, the girls
at the BPL.
In the BPL. So, yeah, good night.
Fantastic to see, obviously, the sporting public out and about and enjoying the facilities that we've got here in SA.
Nick Kay and Tanasi Kay.
Yes, they won the Australian Open here back in January, pairing up. They've played a bit of tennis together and had a bit of fun with it and got through to the final and ended up winning it. That includes them being invited to the ATP finals matches overseas this week. They play the first-ranked team and it only just went down, which is a fair effort considering that they were playing, I believe, in Mexico a couple of days beforehand, and they had a bit of a delay in actually arriving for their match. Okay. So they sort of got there, without the ideal preparation and did pretty well. They do play 3 or 4 matches within a pool, so we'll keep a bit of an eye on that one over the next. But I just thought it was fantastic that one, they're getting an opportunity, but 2, without the ideal preparation, still quite professional and had a bit of fun with it and got the crowd involved, which can only be a good thing.
Yeah, no, they've been great as a doubles pair.
Mate, that brings us to the end of another show. Big one tonight. We thank John Wynne for 28 for joining us. We covered quite a diverse range of topics once again, mate.
Yeah, look, and there's a couple of people said, "Oh, Malcolm, you're only getting ignored people and that." Look, tonight with John Wynne, that was a little bit deliberate in terms of, I thought was a way about his kit knowing John, and bear in mind that's most people I know in terms of Arnold, got a Nord connection, but it was, I really wanted to get it out there to some people to actually learn about John a bit more as a person, and his care and compassion came through, which I knew it would.
And obviously the concussion protocols, which we've talked about a little bit over the last couple of weeks. And yes, we have had a few Nord people on, but you know we're endeavouring to secure some really good guests, which we do have coming up in the next couple of weeks, mate.
We'll keep chasing.
Fantastic. As per usual, mate, we promise to do better, and that we will next week.
Thanks, Pope.
Thanks, mate.
In this crazy world we live in, we all need the distraction. Enjoying the show? Like, rate, and subscribe. Hook up and connect with us on social media at Sportscast SA. We'll see you next time on Game On.